Hi, everybody. This is Peggy McGuire, and this is English 104 Technical Writing. Welcome. You'll be doing a good bit of listening to me on slideshows over the course of the semester as you do your online sections of this course. So let's get started. And the way we'll get started is by doing a broad overview of technical writing. And we start that overview by looking at what are the key characteristics of technical writing and also what specifically about technical writing requires process steps that may be beyond what you have normally done with writing in the past. So let's start looking at those questions. First of all, what is technical writing? And I want to define this just because I want to make some distinctions, even though there are a lot of similarities, some distinctions between technical writing and other kinds of writing you may do in college or you may be trained to do in college. So, technical writing has similarities to, but is different from academic writing, for instance, or writing for specific business purposes. So, what does make technical writing unique? Well, all of those kinds of writing have to do with exchanging information in written form. But specifically, technical writing is the kind of information you convey which is going to help people interact with technology in some way and not only interact with technology, but also solve complex problems. So this is very focused on the utilitarian notion of helping people do something. Your writing is going to help people do something, not only interact with technology, but specifically accomplish a task, answer a particular question, or make a particular decision. So, this kind of writing that we are going to be focusing on is really very problem solving in that way, that you are helping people do something. And that makes it very important to think about the kinds of writing we're talking about and also what specific considerations need to be in your mind as you prepare to do technical writing. So, what kinds of technical communications are we talking about? We're talking about various kinds of instructions, specifically telling people how to do something. User's manuals. Think about a DVD player or a smart TV and the book that comes with it that tells you how to use it. That is a form of technical writing because it's telling you how to do something, hopefully clearly and well. Reports of various kinds when you're especially when you've done research on some technical issue that you need to now communicate the results of to someone else. So technical writing will appear in reports. In much briefer form, it will appear in memos when you are making short communications about some technical issue. And procedures, much like instructions, procedures, how to follow a series of steps in order to get to a desired outcome. These are the kinds of writings we're talking about when we're talking about technical communication and the kinds of writing that you will be doing in this course over the next months. So, I said earlier that the writing process is going to sound familiar, but there are specific issues about the writing process in technical writing that are particularly important. The first thing to remember, it's always an important issue, but in technical writing, extremely important, is that you are focusing as the writer on what the reader needs to learn or what that reader needs to do or decide in order to successfully and effectively do something, interact with technology, or otherwise accomplish something. So you're really focused on what the reader needs to know. A part of that focus then is to present the information you have to share as accurately and accessibly and efficiently as possible. You are not um, using, lots and lots of prose here. What you're doing is trying to figure out how to convey the information that the reader needs in as brief and clear and accurate and useful a way as you can. All right? Now, here's something that's going to explain to some extent why this course is structured the way it is, and that is this kind of complex text that we're talking about now as technical writing, often in the workplace or in the research setting, is produced not by individuals but by teams of people. And they produce that text both in paper form and in digital form. So, we are going to be focusing a lot on teamwork in this course because so much of this kind of complex text is produced by teams when it's done. All right? Okay. So, once again, the kind of writing we're talking about shares a lot of characteristics with any good kind of higher level writing that you would be doing in college or in the workplace. And so when I talk about the purposes of the purposes of written technical communication, this should sound familiar if you've taken other writing courses, because the key overarching purposes of technical communication are the same as any good writing. Either you're trying to inform your readers, and if that's the case, part of your thinking is, what questions are my readers going to have? So you have to be anticipating and answering those questions in order to fully inform your reader. So informing the reader first. Second, instructing readers, explaining how to do something, how to perform a task, how to follow a procedure, how to fix something, how to accomplish what it is that you want that reader to accomplish. Okay? So, informing, instructing, and finally, persuading. You're trying to influence the thinking of your reader so that she or he will do what it is you need them to do. All right? So, as in all good written communication, you're informing, instructing, and or persuading. Now, when it comes to technical communication, how do we meet those purposes? Again, what I'm going to say here could be said of all good higher level writing, but it's especially important in technical writing. Attention to your audience and your purpose. What do I want the readers to accomplish? That's the purpose. And then, what's the right document for this group of people so that they will accomplish what I need them to accomplish? What's the right document in this particular situation for this particular task that needs to be done, or for this particular problem to be solved? What's the best document for us to write so that our reader will be able to accomplish the task, solve the problem? Okay? So always attention to audience and purpose is critical. And then once I answer those questions for myself, then I've now decided what document I need to use. Now I prepare that document with great care. And going back to what I was saying earlier, part of that means thinking about what's the clearest, easiest to read language I can use, right? The word technical often in people's mind means hard to understand. Well, our job as technical writers is to actually flip that over and say, how can I make this as easy to understand as possible? How can I write this so that my reader won't be scratching her head or saying, what in the world? I can't understand what this says. We want to be clear. We want to use good, accessible language. And part of what usually helps our readers is to have visuals involved in the text. So you actually include visuals that are appropriate to the text, and instructive to the reader, right? So, for those people who actually really need the visual to help them understand, we're offering both. We're offering text and visuals to help people accomplish the purpose that we want them to accomplish. And along with visuals comes, what does the text look like? Overall, even beyond the visuals, how do we make sure that the page itself is easy to read? The layout, how do we lay it out so that it looks nice and clear and inviting to read instead of scary and overwhelming? So, how do we use headings well? How do we keep our paragraphs short enough? How do we use white space well? These are all going to be things that we'll be looking at in terms of how to make text in technical writing as clear and as accessible as possible. Okay? So, specific strategies for meeting these purposes. Let's go on and now talk about the writing process, which again, very similar to the writing process across any discipline, whether it's academic, business, or other kinds of writing. This should look familiar. So what you're going to do is, once you've identified your problem, remember, you've identified your writing purpose, you've identified your audience, you've decided what document is going to be best serve your purpose and reach your audience, then you're going to gather the information you need to communicate to your audience, whatever it is you want them to know. And once you've gathered your information, you then go through the process of planning and drafting in order to come up with a good document. And then you evaluate that document, make sure it's doing what you want it to do, make sure it's meeting the purpose you set, make sure it's communicating to your audience in the way you want it to. And if it's not, if there's a problem, you know how to revise. You know how to make it better. You know how to improve it. So the technical writing process is just the same as any other good writing process, where you make sure you know why you're writing, to whom you're writing, you have the information you need to communicate, and then you plan, draft, evaluate, and revise. Now, having said that, how similar that process is to writing across any discipline where you have to write, the technical writing process does in fact have some unique aspects that require you to be thinking all the time in every phase of research and production. You need to be thinking. And this, I argue, and you'll hear me say this often, writing is thinking in text. You know, you need to be thinking all the time through every phase of the writing process. And in technical writing, that is critically important. So, how is it critically important? First of all, back to audience. Knowing that you have thought through who you are writing to, what they need, what they expect. You've got to take that step in order for technical writing to be effective. Because if your audience does not understand, then you have not reached your purpose. Okay? So your job is to help your audience fully understand. All right? So think about who they are and what they're going to need in order to fully understand what you're asking them to do. All right? Another way that this kind of writing may differ from writing in other disciplines is that your research that you're doing in order to produce technical communication often requires you to actually talk to technical experts in whatever field you are working with. So if you are writing about an environmental topic, then you're probably going to end up needing to talk to people who are experts in environmental science. And same goes with other technical areas, that you're going to want to talk to people who know what they're talking about in the content area that you're focused on. Next, I'm repeating myself, but it can't hurt. In this kind of writing, often co-workers will collaborate on producing documents. You will work in teams. So, in this course, you will be doing a good deal of work in teams for that very reason. The proper format of your document and how and where you distribute the document are essential pieces of your planning. You need to know, need to think through beforehand what format this communication is going to take. Where are we going to get it out? Who are we getting it out to? How are we going to make sure it gets out there to the people who need it? Okay? And because of the technical nature of the writing, it is often true that someone will be carefully reviewing what you write before the documents are released. So that's another kind of audience that you're going to need to think about, right? We've been talking about thinking about the audience who needs to know what you're telling them, but also there's a good chance that someone within your organization or your company or whoever it was who commissioned from you this writing is probably going to be looking carefully at it before they allow it to go out to someone else. So you need to be thinking about that audience too. The boss, the people who asked you to do this writing. So think about them as an important audience too.